Thanks for clicking. Welcome to another Knowledge Math production. Today we're going to be talking about percents and doing computational problems with percents. Okay, so you may have remember this, like what is 50% of 20, right? You've done this before. So let's take a look. We'll remind you how to do it. There's a couple ways that you can go about it, and then we'll do some practice and make sure that you can do it. So the first thing we need to talk about is all of these percent problems work with ratios. A ratio is a comparison of two or more numbers, usually written as a fraction. Okay. Some ratios are what we consider part to whole ratios. This is important here. It's comparing a part of something to an entire group of something. Okay. A percentage is a part to whole ratio that's expressed as a fraction of 100. So for example, you probably remember this, hopefully, that 80% we would write as 80 over 100. Okay. So what's going to be important here are these ratios that we're going to write down are all going to be part to whole ratios. So let's talk about how we're going to write them. So what we're going to do is there are three types of different percent problems that we can solve. We can find the part, we can find the whole, or we can find the percent. All right. To do that, we're going to work with one of these two equations. It doesn't matter to me which one you work with. I'll tell you which one I prefer, but it doesn't matter if you learned it the other way because there's really two major ways that you can learn it. Okay. One of them is this equation. Part over whole equals percent over 100. That's one way to learn it. This is the way that I prefer you learn it. And I'm going to explain to you why when we start working on some of the problems. Now, the other way that some of you, this may sound more familiar to you, is like this. Is over of equals percent over 100. Okay, the number next to the is, the number next to the of, all right, equals percent over 100. This might be the way that some of you have learned it in the past, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with this method. The only issue that I have with this doing is over of equals percent over 100 is not all the problems are set up as what is 15% of 30. Okay, I mean, what if you're talking about, paying tax or a tip or whatever that may be. All right. So that's something you have to consider as well. Okay. That's why this, I think, is a little bit better. But, is it wrong to use this equation? No, definitely not. It will definitely work. If you understand how to use it, you should use it. Okay. All right. So let's work on some problems together. I'm going to use this equation just so that you understand where we're going with it. But again, you want to use the equation on the right, you're welcome to do that. Okay, so first question is, what is 60% of 5? All right, so I'm going to use my equation, part over whole equals percent over 100. All right, so now my percent is pretty easy to identify. It's the number that has the percent sign next to it. So we're going to have 60 over 100 on this side. And then my question is, what is 60% of 5? So we have to figure out what the part is and what the whole is, right? I think the easiest way to think about that is, although it says up here in example 1, finding the part, which might give away what the 5 is, but I think it's important to understand it also. So real quick, if I were to say to you, I need to figure out the tax for this item that I bought, and so I need to know what 6% of $50 is. Let's say, what is 6% of $50? Because I need to figure out the tax. Well, the $50 is the whole amount that I paid, right? Okay. The number that I'm looking for in this case, if I say what is 6% of $50, is the part, right? Right. What is 6% of $50? So then this is, some part of $50, right? 6% of $50 is some part of that amount. So if I say, what is 60% of 5? The 5 is the whole, and then I want to know what the part is. So now you have to remember how to solve these. We're going to cross multiply. They're two equal fractions. So we're going to multiply the 100 times the x, and we're going to write 100x. And then we're going to write 60 times 5, and that's 300. And divide both sides by 100. And we get x equals 3. And that's our answer. Okay? All right. Let's try another one. 40% of 20 is what number? Okay. So, again, I'm going to use the idea of part over whole equals percent over 100. All right. My percent is 40, so I'm going to fill that in. 40 over 100. Part over whole. So 40% of 20. So if I wanted to give a 40% tip of $20 is what number? So the whole number is 20, and the part is what I want to know. So I'm going to cross multiply. These are two equal fractions. 100 times x is 100x, and 40 times 20 is 800. And I'm going to divide both sides by 100, and I have x equals 8. And there's my answer. I don't need to write a percent sign after the 8 because it's a number, right? Is what number? It's not a percent. The percent was 40%. It's over here. All right. So if I say 3 is 60% of what number? So again, I'm going to use my equation, part over whole equals percent over 100. Okay. My percent is 60, 60%. Now, this time, the part is 3, right? It says 3 is 60% of how much? How much would I have to have as a whole amount, to make 3 as my part? So 3 over x equals 60 over 100. I'm going to cross multiply. 100 times 3 is 300. And then 60 times x is 60x. Divide both sides by 60. Cross out a 0 at the end. 30 divided by 6 is 5. So 5 is my answer. Okay, 50 is 20% of what number? Now your turn to try. We're using part over whole equals percent over 100. So 50 is 20%. So 20 over 100 of what number? So 20% of how much would be a $50 tip. So the part is 50. X is what I don't know. That's whole, how much? So 20 times x is 20x equals 50 times 100. I'm going to write, well, do 5 times 1 is 5, and then add 3 zeros, right? 5,000. Divide both sides by 20. So I'm going to drop a 0 off. 500 divided by 2. That's 250. So 250 is the number I'm working with. And then now I can find the percentage as well. What percent of 55 is 33? So this one's actually, I think, the easiest to recognize what's what. So 50, what percent of 55 is 30? So the percent is now, I don't know, of 55 is 33. So the whole must have been 55. 33 must be the answer that I got. That's the part. Okay, and now I need to solve this for x. Now I'm going to actually make myself my life a little bit easier here. On the left-hand side, 33 over 55, I can write in lowest terms. I could have done it with the percent ones over here as well. Earlier, I just didn't because they were easy to multiply by zeros. So I'm going to divide each one of these by 11. Put it in lowest terms. It gives me 3 over 5 equals x over 100, and that's a lot easier to work with. 3 times 100 is 300. 5 times x is 5x. I'll divide both sides by 5, and I get 60. Okay, but x isn't 60. X may be 60, but the answer is 60%. Right? This is now a percent. Okay, so we want to write 60%. Okay, 11 is what percent of 20? So same idea. So the part over the whole equals the percent over 100. The part is 11. The whole is 20. X is my percent this time. I'm going to multiply 11 times 100. It gives me 1 times 11 is 11, and add 2 zeros, 1100 equals 20x. Divide both sides by 20. Throw 1 0 away at the end. We're going to do 2 into 110. 2 goes into 11 5 times. 2 goes into 10 5. 55. So this is 55%. Okay, that's part over whole equals percent over 100. Again, you could do is over of equals percent over 100, and that's great as long as it's worded to you like this, where there's literally a percent in there and the word is and the word of. But what happens if that's not there? So Rachel is taking her friend out to dinner. When she gets the check, the total is $56.75, not including the tip. She wants to leave a 20% tip. And the question is, how much money should Rachel leave for that tip? Okay, so if I'm going to do part over whole equals percent over 100, and there's another way to do this as well, which we're going to work on a little bit also. When she gets the check, maybe in class. So she gets the check, the total is $56.75. So the whole amount of the check is $56.75. I don't want to know what part that is. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take advantage of my lowest terms here. 20 over 100. 20 goes into each one, right? It's going to make my life a little easier. So now I'm going to have x over 56.75 equals 1 over 5. I'm going to cross multiply. 56.75 equals 5x and divide both sides by 5. And now I'm going to divide these decimals here. 56.75. 5 goes into 5 once. Bring down the 6. So 5 goes into 6 once. Bring down the 1. 7, put the decimal up top. 5 goes into 17 3 times. And 5 goes into 25.5. So how much should she leave? She should leave $11.35. Okay, that would be my answer. Now that's one way to calculate tip. There's another way to calculate tip, which we'll also talk about in the future. But I just want to stick with using this formula all the way through this video. Okay, finally, Miss Acton spent $205.60 at Target. I don't know what she bought. If the sales tax is 6%, what was the final bill? So again, I'm using part over whole equals percent over 100. So I know my percent, it's 6%. The part, I don't know, because I want to know 6% of the 205.60. So 205.60, that is my whole. That's how much money I spent. And then the part is what I want to know. So I'm just going to multiply these. 100 times x is 100x. 205.60 times 6 is 1233.60. And then I'm going to divide both of these by 100. And I get, so when I divide by 100, I move my decimal 2 places to the left. It gives me 12.336. Okay, but we're talking about her final bill. This is money. So I'm going to use this 6, round this 3. 1234. Now, what does the 1234 represent? The question is, what's her final bill? This is the tax. So it's 1234 in tax. So I got to add that to the 205.60. I'm going to add those together. And her total is $217.94. And that's the answer. Okay, so we're using this equation here to work with percent problems. And if you know that equation, you're in pretty good shape. And that's it. And as always, thanks for clicking.